Hi, I'm Lev, aka Lisco2000. If you like basketball and if you've been on the internet for long enough, you might recognize me as the Dario Šarić girl. I've been the quote-unquote Dario Šarić girl for going on 5 years now, and people often ask me, why Dario? The short answer is I watched the Sixers a lot with my parents when I was a teenager, and I would just come home from school and the Sixers would be on. I just ended up really falling in love with those process teams. But the short answer fails to account for the fact that my special interest on Dario Šarić started in 2020. And at that point, he had been a Phoenix Sun for almost a full season. And to make matters even more confusing, my special interest on Dario started the week that the NBA was suspended due to COVID. So for the beginning of my special interest, there was no basketball on at all. It was just me and my mind palace and vibes. But yeah, no, that was when I was 17. I turned 18 like a week into the pandemic. And now I'm 22, and it's been 5 years. But before I get into what makes me the Dario Šarić girl, I have to explain special interests, because that's what this is. The special interest is an interest that occurs in a neurodivergent person where they are just obsessed with a single subject, and this can last for years at a time. And for me, a special interest kind of manifests as the subject being the only thing I want to think about, the only thing I want to write about, kind of just what takes up most of my mind palace. For my entire life, it's always been something. For 6 years when I was a teenager, it was a band that nobody really listened to. It was the Warrior Cats series for a long time. I would make my own characters and like insert them into the stories. It was really fun. And when I was a small child, it was Bert from Sesame Street. Not even Ernie. It wasn't even Bert and Ernie. It was just Bert, which is ridiculous. But it's always been something for my entire life. And for the past 5 years, it has been Dario Šarić. So for the purposes of this video, I've set out on a quest to kind of identify what it is that drew me to Dario over any other player, not just on that Sixers team, but in the NBA. So I went on Tier Maker and I found the most accurate every player in the NBA list that I could. And I made a tier list. Obviously, Dario tier is the top one. And then after that is, yes, in this universe, I could see myself becoming the Dario Šarić girl for this player, either after Dario retires or just, you know, down the line, or maybe if everything was the same in my life, but I just didn't have a special interest on Dario. Then after that, it was, yes, but this player is too popular. The player has to be relatively unknown because I have to be rooting for an underdog and somebody I can relate to. And like I say many times in the next segment, you can't be like, for example, the LeBron James girl, because everybody is the LeBron James girl. Or even a player like, I think I put Karl Anthony Towns in that tier, who I love, and I could very much see myself becoming the Karl Anthony Towns girl, but you can't be the Karl Anthony Towns girl because everybody and their mother is the Karl Anthony Towns girl. Then after that tier, I said yes in another universe. So the criteria for this one is basically, yes, I would have totally been the Dario Šarić girl for this player, or I totally would be if maybe I was 10 years older, or maybe if I was born in San Antonio, or just maybe if something about my life was very different, or something about the player was very different. Like, yes, if this player was on the process Sixers, then I totally would have become the Dario Šarić girl for them, but they weren't. So I didn't. Then after that, we have maybe in this universe, which turned out to be just a tier of players who were either like friends with Dario or teammates with him already, who I really liked, or players who have his like same vibe, if that makes sense. Like just same general vibes. Like maybe in this universe I could see this happening, but it wasn't a strong yes like I got with the guys in the yes tier. And then after that we have no, but you think I would, because a lot of people seem to think that any white European player like I'm all in on, which is not the truth. So this is basically a tier of players that people always like assume I would really like, but that I'm actually like kind of indifferent on or don't really like, just, you know, for no reason, just like no. Then after that we have no regular, which no regular is just a series of players that I couldn't really see myself ever being the Dario Šarić girl for no reason, just that I wouldn't. And then after that we have no ew, which is for players I really don't like, you know, guys with allegations or have done terrible things. And I think, oh yeah, and I have Jusuf Nurkic on there. I just don't like him. Sorry, Nurk, if you're watching this. I'm sure you're a great person, but you are just so easy to make fun of. Why would Nurk be watching this video? Anyway, so we end up with the yes tier. These are the guys that I could totally see myself becoming the Dario Šarić girl for. We have guys like Tobias Harris, who I watched for years and years on the Sixers, who has always been good vibes and wholesome and a constant kind of figure on that team. We have guys like Kevon Looney. He's been a mainstay on the Warriors for years and years and years. and has always been wholesome and good vibes the whole time. We have guys like Gary Payton and like Robin Lopez who are just straight up goofballs. We've got guys like Paul Reed who kind of were process Sixers, and Robert Covington who definitely was one. We have guys like Bismuth Biyombo and Yuta Watanabe who are both longtime journeyman role players who kind of just bounce around, and you love to see them wherever they're at because they are such good vibes. And I know Yuta is no longer in the NBA, but if he was, or if I didn't have a special interest on Dario while he was in the NBA, it might have been him. We have guys like Jeremy Sohan, Bol Bol, and Miles Turner who aren't afraid to express themselves and show a lot of personality on and off the court. And in the yes but too popular tier, we have guys like Jimmy Butler, Karl Anthony Towns, and Derek White, who again are good vibes and not afraid to express themselves. Oh, and Wemby. If he was not a generational superstar, I would 100% be the Victor Wembanyama girl. I adore Wemby. But again, this kind of all proves that this player has to be somebody that nobody else is talking about. Two non-active players that I really was thinking about while making this video, Bill Walton and Adam Morrison. In the Bill Walton genre, I was also thinking Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, but he's way too popular. I do adore Kareem though, but you know, if this was me in the 70s, I could not have been the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar girl, because again, everybody would have been the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar girl. And also there wouldn't be an internet for me to post on, so I think I would just be at the games acting crazy, which actually maybe then that would make me into the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar girl, but whatever, besides the point. I think it would have been way easier for me to be the Bill Walton girl. And with both of them, you see good vibes and you see this kind of outspoken social justice thing, which I definitely stand for. And that's actually one of the reasons that I really like Dario. Because basically, if you didn't know, Dario was the only Phoenix Suns player to say anything of substance about Robert Sarver when asked at 2022 Media Day. And while most of the other players said something along the lines of basketball is for everyone, Dario actually made a stand and said, there's no room for discrimination in the NBA, or anywhere else for that matter. And he actually said that, I'm not kidding. And obviously, that statement from Dario at 2022 Media Day is a crumb in comparison to anything that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar did, or Bill Walton for that matter. But still, I think that when somebody stands up for marginalized people, whether they are marginalized themselves or not, that's a sign of somebody that I do want to associate myself with. So that's why I might stand someone like Jaylen Brown or like Giannis, who have both spoken up about social justice issues, rather than somebody who chooses to ignore them. The next point about the Adam Morrison type of player, which that actually all came from an edit I saw of him on TikTok, which we are actually going to insert right here.
Nobody prepares you for fame. I'm not ashamed of showing emotion.
Adam is so baked right now.
The great mustachio.
I had 5 40-point games that season.
I cried on national television. So what?
If you gave me this funky looking goober when I was like 16 or 17, this would have been who I would have been the Dario Šarić girl for. Like if we were just under different circumstances and like this guy crossed my radar when I was like 16, yeah, absolutely. Which that's also kind of been what I've always loved about Dario too, is that you can kind of always tell what he's feeling. Like maybe you can't. Like, we'll never know, you know, like, it's not like these guys are giving us, like, a diary entry after every game, but sometimes you can just see it on somebody's face or in their eyes, and in Dario's case in particular, we actually have matching friendship bracelets, which is so random. Hold on, let me, yeah, this one right here, trust the friendship. So, I mean, this bracelet, I don't have a picture of Dario's because I actually made it, and then I was like, why would I need to take a picture of this? Like, I just wasn't thinking. Because I think I made it literally the night before the game. Because I had one, and then I made a second one to match with mine. And I was like, I don't need a picture of that. But I did give it to him, and he did like it. And I think stuff like that is that's also what kind of draws me to a player, is like, can you express joy? Can you express sadness? Can you give us emotion? Or is it just gonna be go girl, give us nothing? Because I'm not gonna stand somebody who's either like performing their personality or doesn't really give us anything at all. Which you're gonna hear the go girl, give us nothing kind of player, and you're gonna think Kawhi Leonard, and I'm gonna tell you are absolutely wrong. Because Kawhi is actually one of the players that I totally could have seen myself being the Dario Šarić girl for under different circumstances. Like, if I were a little bit older and I grew up in the San Antonio area, it would 100,000,000,000,000% be Kawhi. Like, I would have been on that Kawhi train before he became a star, and then I would be like, I can't be the Kawhi Leonard girl because everybody's the Kawhi Leonard girl, and I would literally be so annoying about it. I think I also would have been a Manu Ginobili girl. I think that's one of the ones that people always bring up when they hear that I'm the Dario Šarić girl. That's actually, Manu is one of Dario's favorite players. I think he wears 20 as his backup number because of Manu, and he doesn't wear 9 because of Tony Parker, but he did really like that big 3. And before he was drafted, he actually said he wanted to go to to San Antonio to be a part of that, which is so cute. He actually, before the draft, told whatever reporter he was talking to that he wanted to go anywhere but Philly. And Sam Hinkie is a genius, because how he got Dario is the Magic drafted him and then the Sixers traded for him. So it's like, oh, you're not going to get drafted by Philly, but we are going to get you. And they did. But see, like, this is the tangent that I get on anytime I'm talking about Dario, is like, you see how automatic this stuff is. That's what a special interest is. This isn't like a regular thing that I'm interested in. This is, I referred to it in a piece I wrote about this subject a little bit ago. I said, I live and breathe this shit. And I think that's proof that I could just kind of rattle all of that off. And when I do that, I can literally visualize like whatever the video or the interview is, like, in my head. It's like, it's just automatic. I think that's pretty cool. And I used to not really understand that other people didn't have this kind of superpower, or, you know, this kind of phenomenon in their lives. So I kind of assumed everyone can do that with something, but not everyone can. So if you have special interests too, I think we're kind of special. But anyway, what drew me to Kawhi in particular is those ads that the Spurs would do with HEB.
Kawhi, what is that?
It's a snowball.
That's a pretty good snowball, Kawhi.
Yeah, I know.
I think that, you know, people see Kawhi as like this emotionless robot, but I don't think that's actually the case. I think a lot of these guys do put on kind of a persona in front of the media, but I think Kawhi, up until he was a Raptor, was just such a ridiculous little goober, and I totally would have been the Dario Šarić girl for him in his like role player era before things really started heating up. I think before his first championship. Yeah, he has 2, right? I don't know, guys. I'm just yapping. I'm just cooking. But I'm literally looking at my tier list down there, and I'm like, there's a bunch of guys on here who all just have like this, just a niche thing about themselves where it's like, this is their personality. I mean, like Miles Turner and his Legos. I call Miles Turner Apple Store because when I lived in DC, I was on my way to a Wizards game when my phone cracked, and I took it to get the screen fixed at the Apple Store. And the Apple Store is like right near where the Wizards play. And I was like talking to the, you know, the person who was helping me, and they were like, oh, like, are you on your way to a Wizards game? I guess they saw like the little fit I was wearing. I was like, yeah, but my phone cracked. And I guess I asked, like, do you see players a lot since, you know, you work at the Apple Store right here? And she was like, yeah, Miles Turner from the Pacers, it was the away team that night. Miles Turner was in here earlier. And I was like, that's so random. So I love Apple Store. He's awesome. I think it was him that had the tweet that was like, I love cats. I've had cats for my whole life, but I'm ready to level up to a more serious animal. I want to get a dog. And I just think that is the most ridiculous thing a person has ever said. So I love Miles Turner. So that puts him in Dario Šarić girl territory. Because if we bring this back to Dario and things that he's done that are like that. So during quarantine, when every team was doing like these interview things with the players where it was like, you're quarantined in your house, what are you doing? Dario had one. It was like his birthday during quarantine, and the interviewer was like, so what did you do for your birthday? And he was like, oh, I got cake and I sat on my balcony in my apartment and I ate my cake.
I would stay at home, probably eat some cake, enjoying this good weather here in Phoenix.
It's just stupid shit like that I'm like, this makes me love you so much. If I were 16 right now and everything about my life was the same, but I was just in high school, you know, living at my parents' house in New Jersey and watching the Sixers, I would 1,000,000,000% be the Jared McCain girl. But the thing with being the Jared McCain girl is that everybody's the Jared McCain girl. But he is an example of one of those players who just does so much of that. Like, I mean, I call it fan service. I know fan service is like a different kind of word, but that stuff where it's like, I'm really seeing your personality here. But back in my day, when I was like 15, 16, getting into basketball, we didn't have like those TikTok accounts that would ask the players like their favorite song to listen to before a game, or like finish the lyrics. I might swerve, bend that corner, whoa. Like, we didn't have that. We had these like YouTube clips that were posted to like the team's channel, and it was like these little like Jumbotron segments, or like, you know, something for Instagram. And I remember when I was watching the Sixers, they had a Chick-fil-A one where it was like they tried all the Chick-fil-A sauces. That's what I would watch to, you know, get to know my favorite players. And there was also, I mean, they had this thing where they went on this YouTube channel, I guess, and it was a bunch of the Sixers players ahead of 2017, 2018 who were all telling each other jokes. It was like bad joke telling or something. something, that video is a sacred text to me. That is genuinely, that's like how I got into seeing the players less as like these kind of video game avatars where it's just like you're running on a court and like shooting a ball, and more as these fleshed out, like I can stand you because I see you as a full person now. And honestly, I think a lot of that kind of developed into how I write about the league and how I make videos about the league today, where I really do see every player as a human being in anything that I'm doing, which I feel like some people forget that, but this isn't a video where I'm gonna take shots at people, so. But yeah, no, we didn't have TikTok, so I wouldn't just be seeing these videos coming up in my feed. I'd have to go actively look for, like, on the Sixers channel, a video that was, like, 45 seconds long with 10 views. That was, like, Markel Fultz guesses the populations of cities in China. And I think a lot of, like, the personality stuff and even, like, kind of the activism or, you know, at least general care for other human beings kind of stuff is where we reach the no regular tier, where it's just like, these are just guys I couldn't really see myself standing for any reason. Maybe I just don't really mesh with their personality. Maybe I feel like they haven't spoken up enough, or I just don't have that connection to them. So in the no regular, we have like LaMelo Ball, who's also popular, so it's like, well, I wouldn't be the LaMelo Ball girl anyway. So you got James Harden. I was just throwing random people in here. I think JaVale McGee is in there. Got Zach LaVine, Cam Payne, Kevin Huerter, Tyler Hero, Jordan Poole, and who is that? Oh, that's Lonzo. But those are all just like my no regular, you know? I just don't mesh with them, and that's fine. And I think the other thing, not just about Dario, but about a lot of the guys in the yes tier, is that I can find some kind of way to relate to them. I remember when I first started really getting into basketball and when I was kind of like learning more about Dario's lore, and I was like, I see part of myself in this guy for some reason. I saw this a lot in Dario, where it's like he's this kind of unlikely character, and I saw it a lot in Joel Embiid too, where it's like you kind of have these expectations set on you. With Joel, it was like he was on the track to become a professional volleyball player, but then when he was like 14 or 15, he was like, I'm gonna play basketball. He ended up going to Kansas, you know, that whole story. And with Dario, it was kind of like this opposite effect, where it's like he was so heavily pushed on this path to play basketball, and I think he does love it. Like, obviously, you know, he's been doing it for this long and he seems happy enough, but he has this almost like chosen one sort of thing going on, where he came out of this small town where Drazen Petrovic had also come out of. You know, he died a year before Dario was born, not even, and he was raised to kind of rectify this whole thing, and he was pushed on the path to be a pro baller. Like, both of his parents had played this whole thing, and it's like, nah, this dude really just likes sharks. Then he like directed a music video in his free time, and it's like, is he playing basketball because he loves it? We don't know. And I saw so much of myself in that, where it's like the things that I was good at were not the things I was passionate about. We don't really know how Dario feels, because again, like, he hasn't opened up about this. This is all kind of speculation. Dario, if you're watching and you don't feel like writing your own autobiography or your own like Players Tribune piece, hit me up. Okay, you are so lucky that your like most dedicated stan is a writer by trade. Not many other niche NBA players have that. Anyway, we don't know how he feels, like, for certain, but in my case, the things that I was good at were not the things I was passionate about. Like, I remember I was getting such good grades on like these chemistry tests and stuff in high school, you know, when I was like first really watching basketball too. So it was all kind of at the same time. And I remember I was getting these like really good grades, but I hated chem. And my parents were so confused, and like my friends were confused too, where it's like, if you're so good at something, how do you just not like it? And I'm like, I just don't. Like, I don't want to do this for my like job. I don't want to be like a scientist. That's not really what I'm interested in. And I think I saw so much of myself in this like perceived version of Dario, where it's like, does he even really want to be playing basketball, or does he just do it because he's good at it? And that was so me in high school. Like, I've always been a writer. I've always wanted to be a writer and doing this whole writing video, just creating things kind of deal. But, you know, everyone tells you when you're younger, like, you're never going to make any money doing that, and you have to make money. And I think that is so similar to just imagine this kid who like really likes sharks and might have an interest in filmmaking of some sort, and it's just like, but you're so good at basketball. And it's like, it's kind of that feeling of like not really fully being listened to, and people not really understanding that what you're passionate about isn't just what you're good at on paper. And that brings me back to a Miles Turner, and it also brings me back to a Matisse Thybulle. I have my issues with Matisse. That's why he's in another universe tier. If it's like, if we're in the universe where Matisse Thybulle believes in deodorant, then absolutely. But we're not in that universe, so I would not be the Dario Šarić girl for him. But basically, it's like, yeah, Matisse is really good at basketball, you know, good enough to make it to the NBA. I don't know if he's that good anymore, but still, he's like NBA caliber. He's making money, but he has this YouTube channel and this photography account, and it's like, it's the same kind of thing. It's like, maybe you're good at something, but it's not what you're passionate about. And I think I really relate to that, or at least I did when I was younger. So one other thing that always draws me to a player is kind of like an air of melancholy and rising out of a sadness, if you will. It's kind of why I'm so drawn to Kawhi, because he does have a bit of a tragic backstory, and he was like able to overcome that. You know, you can still feel it. And I think that's relatable. I think because everybody has things that they go through, everybody has traumas, and you know, you're not supposed to just forget it. It's a part of who you are. So for me, I can kind of always see that on a player and be like, I can relate to you. I can latch on to you. Or like see a Markelle Fultz kind of player who he's in the maybe in this universe tier, you know, in that universe where Dario was never a Sixer and Markelle was the one on my radar. Just a guy who you thought the world was ending for this guy, but then he managed to turn it around and had a pretty steady career as a role player. I don't think he's in the league right now, but he does seem happy. Or even to bring this back to Dario, he was growing up in a small town that had lost its basketball icon really, really young, and he was kind of being raised to follow in these footsteps. And I think that is incredibly crazy to think about, but also like being born into grief is something that I really do relate to and understand. So I think things like that are just kind of like, everyone has, you know, these traumas and these sad times in their lives, and that's always something that I can latch onto in a player. I think the other type of player that I'm always drawn to, that you can absolutely connect this to Dario because he is this player, is the guy who can just never do enough. The guy who always falls short, like a Chris Paul, like a Joel Embiid. Just a guy who's probably always going to be remembered for just not quite getting there. And I mean, I think this is something that a lot of people can relate to, and definitely I can, of just kind of feeling like you're being beat down over and over and over, or that things aren't really going well in your life, and the victories that you do have is like the equivalent of like making the conference finals, you know, or like being second on the all-time assist list. Like, that's Chris Paul. And I think that is something that is just so relatable. Maybe not even just to me, but in general. I feel like that's a thing that a lot of people can relate to. And obviously you see it with Dario. He tore his ACL in the biggest moment of his career, and the Suns ended up losing those finals, and he's taken a lot of the blame for it. And I think that theme of being doomed by the narrative is something that I just find so compelling and like relatable in a sense, because not every person on earth is going to be this front runner kind of person that gets everything they want. Actually, like 99% of people aren't ever gonna be that, but everyone can relate to tearing their ACL in a big moment, or, you know, being snubbed for an award. Like Dario was snubbed for Rookie of the Year in 2017, or even how Chris Paul came in second place on the all-time assist list and he has no shot of catching up to John Stockton. Or even like an Allen Iverson, where it's like you changed the culture and your jersey's retired, but you don't have the championship ring to show for it. And I think that is something I will always be drawn to. Do you want to just rapid fire the Yes in Another Universe list? Because I think this would be really fun. Yes in Another Universe, Andrew Wiggins. Yes in Another Universe, where I'm from Minnesota and I was watching basketball at the time when he was drafted, which I wasn't. Dylan Brooks. Yes in Another Universe, where I was like 14 and from the Memphis area when he was going crazy. Bobby Portis. I just love him. That's why he's on there. I'm like, but I wouldn't be the Dario Šarić girl for him now. I think I would have to be a little bit older. I think I would have had to be 16, like a few years before. Jaime Jaquez, yes, in the universe where I was 16 recently and I'm from Miami. Like, you see what I'm getting at here. Like, Grant Williams is on there. Again, I just love him. I don't really know the exact circumstances. Didn't really think about it. Oh, Poku. Poku's on here. Poku was the universe where I was 16 and locked in on that 2020 draft and then became a Thunder fan through that, okay? Oh, Ricky Rubio. Ricky Rubio, if I was older and, again, from Minnesota. Mikal Bridges. I don't really know why he's on. I haven't thought about that, but it does make sense. I think it does make sense. But the thing is that he is that front runner kind of person who it's like, yeah, he won in Villanova. He's been able to get everything he wants out of his career. I mean, like, not a championship yet, but so far, you know, things are looking pretty good for little Mikal Bridges. So I don't really know why he's in that tier, because that's really not somebody I would usually be drawn to. I do like him. I do love the all smiles thing. I love the Iron Man situation. It's just, you know, those are other things that I'm drawn to. We got Chris Paul, which you know it. It'll always be Chris Paul, I think, in whatever that universe is. I haven't really thought about that one that much, but there is a universe where I'm obsessed with Chris Paul. I definitely have to be a little bit older for that one, but for sure. And then we got Matisse Thybulle. Makes sense. I already went into that. And then we have Mike Muscala, which obviously I couldn't leave him out of this tier list, you guys. I think when I was making the tier list, because I like filmed that whole thing, I was like, I think I could be the Mike Muscala girl in a universe where we weren't LinkedIn mutuals and I didn't randomly meet him through that. Because like I didn't meet him as a fan. Like we were just, you know, we just knew each other. But I do think like his story and everything is something that I totally could have become obsessed with when I was younger. Mike, if you're watching this, which you're not because you deleted your LinkedIn, and why would I post this on my LinkedIn anyway? Hi! Yeah, and then for the maybe in this universe, we got, I mean, Cam Johnson, Dario's friend. Bojan Bogdanovic, also Dario's friend. George Niang, obviously. George Niang is one of the players that I put on there because he has similar vibes to Dario, just in general. Like, not even like backstory or like lore-wise, but just in general. Like, when he was on the Sixers, like the whole minivan thing, and people were really comparing him to Dario a lot. So I put him on there for that, and then I realized that's what this tier should be, like Dario's friends and players who have the same vibes, I guess. Yeah, we got Landry Shamet in this tier. We got, who was that? Oh, we got Goga in this tier. We got Seth Curry. We got Ivica Zubac, Luka Garza, Slow-Mo, and then Markelle Fultz. That's a pretty good list. I think that all makes sense. Those are all players that in this universe, maybe it could have shaken out a little bit differently and that would have been my guy, or that will be my guy. Maybe. It's not a hard yes, but I think in this universe and the way things have panned out, maybe that would have been my guy. So I think I have to conclude what I've found in making this video in the characteristics that make a player that I would be the Dario Šarić girl for. Well, it's also kindness, which I didn't even go into, which that's like kind of the whole thing with me, is that you have to be kind and you have to have empathy for other people, which actually I did go into that. It'll always be kindness for me. I think like with the kindness thing, like that's why you see Derek Lively in my yes tier. It's why you see Tobias Harris there. It's why you see DeAndre Jordan there. I think for me, it will always be kindness. And obviously, you know, through being the Dario Šarić girl, I haven't interacted with Dario a lot, but when I have, he has always been so incredibly kind to me. Obviously, I do try to like keep distance because again, don't want to be friends with him. I just stan, which people have a hard time wrapping their heads around that. But just think about it like you think about your favorite NBA player, right? Like you aren't wanting to be best friends with this guy. You just appreciate him. That's me with Dario. I met him and I gave him his friendship bracelet and I disappeared into the ether. So, I mean, I've heard that he's kept it. I have like a mutual who works for the Nuggets and like asked him about it because, you know, he followed me and stuff and he was like, this is so interesting. And Dario said he keeps it at his house, which is, to me, I would like to imagine that he keeps it at his house because he doesn't want to like lose it or like break it on the road. So, thank you, Dario, I guess. Would love to see photographic evidence. No, I'm kidding. So in doing all of this, I've compiled a list of characteristics that might make a player that I'm the Dario Šarić girl for. And that includes personality and emotion, kindness and empathy, which also ties into social justice, air of melancholy, and just fun vibes, I think. I think those are the characteristics. I think that's what does it, really, for me. I find this whole thing super interesting, and I encourage you guys to do the same if you have a special interest on an NBA player or if you just like one certain guy a lot. Because I think you can learn a lot about yourself and what your values are by looking at the players that you're obsessed with. Thank you for tuning into my first ever YouTube video. It's been a long time coming and this has been something that I've been super excited about. Thank you to Rudy and to Rusty Buckets and to my editor Desmond. Thank you to my Patreon subscribers, which you're gonna see all of them here. You can subscribe, it's $1 a month and you'll get in my credits and you also get other goodies on there which are really awesome. You can find me Lisco_2000 basically everywhere. There's also gonna be a link to my card down there, which is basically a portfolio where you can read all my stuff, which is really cool. I'm really excited to have a YouTube channel, and again, thank you to the people who have helped me start this. I have some super awesome stuff planned for the future. I really want to do a series on basketball players who died during their careers. This is like my, you know, my Wikipedia passion project that I'm always talking about. So I really want to do a long form thing on that. I have some stuff on Fandom coming up. And if you guys have any ideas of things you would like to see me talk about, let me know, because I'm always looking for things to write about. And I guess talk about now. Interesting. All that being said, thank you for watching. Remember to always be kind, and I'll see you in the next video.